What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. Up next, Super Bowl destruction. Let's talk. Eagles 40, Chiefs 22, and it really wasn't that close. The Philadelphia Eagles dominate this game from the door. And in surprising fashion, not shocking fashion, I absolutely expected the Eagles to win this game. And I probably should have put it on record before the Super Bowl. But I thought that the Eagles would win this game from an offensive perspective. I thought that Saquon Barkley would be hard to stop. I thought that Jalen Hurts would get involved in the run game. And then I thought they would accentuate that with passes. And in some aspects, that's what happened. But what we saw was absolutely a dominating performance by the Philadelphia Eagles DC and that defensive line specifically. And three things were revealed to me that I guess I knew, but became more revelatory from this game. The first thing was this game was won in the front office in the last 2 or 3 off seasons. What? I get it. The game is decided on the field, but this game was decided in the off seasons prior to this season. What I mean by that is when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles defensive front, you have a guy in Jalen Carter who is unblockable, like I previously stated. Jordan Davis, a massive guy in the middle who can push the pocket, offer some pass rush. Nolan Smith, I'm not sure where he was drafted, but he's absolutely a great defensive player. Josh Sweat, who was dominating as well. And other guys like Brandon Graham, the savvy vet, who just harassed Patrick Mahomes all night. And that's GM work, right? That's the importance of GM work. A guy like a Zach Bond, who was nothing more than a special teamer. They signed a free agency, plugged him in, right time, right place, and he became a Pro Bowler. His impact was felt. Drafting 2 rookies, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, who absolutely showed up in this game, specifically Cooper DeJean with a pick 6 and some other coverage plays. That's GM work. And I've only talked about the defensive side of the ball, right? See, when you think about it, when you understand talent and you draft the players you draft, you have to understand where you're plugging them into. And they absolutely are young and talented, and they're not going anywhere. You didn't even really hear Darius Slay's name called but once, because his name didn't have to be called, because the Chiefs couldn't really get anything going. And then when you think about the offensive line, a line who has been good to great for the last 5 or 6 seasons, right? You have to think about the GM work that was done, grabbing a guy like Mekhi Becton and plugging him right in, making him a Pro Bowl level player. Mulatto, I don't even think he's a high draft pick, if I'm thinking correctly. Lane Johnson, a guy who's been a solid, top-notch player along that offensive line for years. And then going out and getting a guy like I Saquon Barkley, who accentuates everything you're trying to do offensively. Going out and getting a big wide receiver like A.J. Brown when you already had Devontae Smith in-house, right? And what you saw from A.J. Brown is dominating one of the top cornerbacks in the league in Trent McDuffie. Every time you saw A.J. Brown making a play, Trent McDuffie was in coverage. And that's what I speak about when I talk about the need that the Ravens have for a number 1 level wide receiver. That's not knocking Zay. That's just understanding what you need to be successful in this league. And so shout out to Howie Roseman and what he's done in that front office. The second thing that was revealed to me is that the Chiefs are in some trouble this offseason. When you think about what you saw last night, you saw an offensive line that really had no chance. And their Pro Bowler in Joe Tooney was playing out of position. And their Pro Bowler Trey Smith played like you didn't know he was a Pro Bowler. And so if those are your Pro Bowlers, right, and you still were dominated, you had 2 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line, and you still were dominated like that, you have a lot more questions than you have answers. I believe his name is Jawan Taylor. I think he's the right tackle, if I'm remembering correctly. He was dominated all night long. So What the Chiefs are going to have to do this offseason is rebuild that offensive line. They're going to have to take a second look at what they got going on in the backfield. They're going to have to take a second look at what they have going on at tight end and also at wide receiver. When you think about Xavier Worthy, he showed up in this game and padded his stats later in the game, but I think he's really a high-level number 2, which is fine. But I think you see the Chiefs need a number 1 level wide receiver, right? Now, let me be honest. I don't care. I don't care if the Chiefs do anything this offseason, but I'm telling you what we saw, right? And so, and I'm gonna talk about how this thing correlates to the Ravens when I get done. So that's the second thing I noticed, that the Chiefs are gonna have to rebuild some things offensively. And the third thing that we can recognize from this game is that if you can build your trenches both offensively and defensively, you have a great chance at winning in this league, which then comes back to number 1, GM work. The Philadelphia Eagles have absolutely the best trenches in the league, and it's understandable why they would be a favorite along with the Ravens, along with the Chiefs for the Super Bowl next season. And so with that being said, right, everything we do going forward is going to be about the Ravens in the Super Bowl in 2026. Our conversations that start up next week or later on this week concerning the draft, free agency, all of that is going to be in the mindset of 2026 Super Bowl. And to close out, what this game caused me to do is go back and look at our matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles to see, did we get dominated like this? Did we even have a chance? And as when I went back and looked, I thought the difference with our ability not to have 6 sacks, because they dominated our offensive line too, was Lamar Jackson's elusiveness, right? We did put up 166 on the ground. We did have some better run plays. We did have some production in the pass game, but our offensive line held up just a little bit better, but not much better. And so I think that no team is going to be able to stay on the field with the Eagles with this level of play. Now, I think there's going to be some teams that's going to be able to steal away some of those players. But with the Eagles' acumen at the GM, I think that they will be able to just, keep it moving. I think they'll lose Josh Sweat. I think Brandon Graham is going to retire. But I think they'll definitely draft some pieces, plug and play, and keep it moving. Zach Bond's a free agent. He got his ring. He's going to go get paid probably elsewhere. And but I still think that they are the best team in the NFC, as the Super Bowl tells you so. When it comes to the Ravens, I think we have to pay close attention to what we do in the trenches. The Eagles provided a template on how to win. And I think that 3 of our offensive linemen are going to be back in place. That's Linderbaum, Daniel Falele, no matter what we think about him, and Roger Rosengarten. And then I think that we're going to have to upgrade the left guard position and figure out what we're going to do at left tackle, which we'll have those conversations soon. And then we got to take a little bit of a different look at the defensive front, right? The tragedy, also as I'm thinking about it, is that the Baltimore Ravens have 3 $100 million guys on their defense at each level, and then a $70 million safety. And we don't come close to what the Philadelphia Eagles got going on with no $100 million guys. Now, will they have some? Yes. I think that Jalen Carter is definitely going to be the highest paid defensive lineman in the league at some point. I think that Jordan Davis will become one of the highest paid interior nose tackles in the league. And then I think you got many years for Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean before you have to worry about their contracts. So they're going to be set. But I think if we're going to be competitive and get some things done, especially with the litany of quarterbacks that we have to face in the AFC before we even get to a Super Bowl, I think we have to look at both sides of the ball, specifically in the trenches. So listen, let me know what you guys noticed from the game. I know this was more like a ramble versus a full-fledged, thought-out video, but I just wanted to get my thoughts on the Super Bowl. I'm turning the page on 2024, 2025. Everything is looking forward. I'm your guy, Boulanger. This is the GM, and I'm out.